In this video, you're going to see how to wrap this round top with very thick edges using interior film. You're going to wrap all the way on the underside. So great techniques, because if you can master this, you get a really great finish that looks great and holds up really well, and it can lead to some really good volume in terms of jobs and profits. Obviously, we want to clean it really well. This is taking a degreaser. This is SOT Surface Cleaner 2. You can also take 10% alcohol and water. But very important to spray directly on the microfiber towel. Start at the top of the table so the dirt goes around and off the table. Then hit the side of the table. Then really focus on the underside. So once the edges are 100% clean and degreased, now it's time to add some primer. Always read the surface you're doing. Again, this is just a demo, but normally Stefano would put it directly on the surface. This is a solvent primer because it's a sealed surface. So make sure that you put a thin coat of primer on that bottom edge right there and let it dry for the right amount of time. Every manufacturer has a different drying time, but make sure to let it dry completely before install. In this case, obviously, he would wrap the entire table. He's just wrapping it half just for demo purposes. Cut the liner off right in the middle to create your hinge. Again, interior film, and this one comes from Cover Style. Most interior film has a high initial tack. That's because oftentimes you're wrapping low surface energy, like wood, tables in this case. So you really want to make sure you get that high initial tack on the adhesive. So therefore, that's why you want to do the backing paper to start, and then simply squeegee it on. So that top section, very easy because it's flat. Now we get to the tricky bit. So Stefano removes a little bit of the excess film on the side, leaves about 6 inches, around 18 centimeters. And what's critical for this type of install right now is making an adjustment for your heat gun. So if you have a digital readout one, make sure you lower the heat setting so it's not on maximum. This is about, I would say, even less what the heat gun can do. And if you have like a standard heat gun that doesn't have a digital readout, and generally they have 3 settings, try to put it on the second one. That's the sweet spot for interior film, because you want to warm it, but not too much. If you heat it too much, it'll definitely overstretch. So notice he gave it a burst of heat, and his freehand is just gently guiding it down to the bottom edge, and he's working about a 4 to 5 inch section at a time. Then I'm going to kind of speed up the footage so you can just see the entire process. So he gives it a burst of heat, and again, that freehand is not pulling down too hard, but just pulling enough to guide it. Very, very, very important, because interior film, for the most part, is calendar film, and it's multi-layered. So this one is around 8 mil thick, so you really have to be super patient. The great thing about interior film is it's super scratch resistant, super stain resistant, holds up really well over a long time, extremely durable. But again, the price you pay during the install is you have to just be a little more patient than you would with like standard color change film or full print digital film. So again, just really slightly different install protocol for sure. But once you master it, you can wrap around these edges pretty straightforward and easy. So again, heat gun setting, kind of at a medium setting right now, just be super patient. And that application glove really pays off in this sense. Don't have to wet it in this case. You basically, this is a textured surface, so very low surface energy. Otherwise, if this was like a gloss, for example, definitely maybe add some soap if it's not one of those new tech fabrics in application gloves. But you can see very just kind of patient process, just working very systematically. So again, once you get this process, and obviously do a 360 for this, once it's to the bottom edge, run your finger to make sure it's 100% set up. And then now here's what's really critical, is to get the stretch proper. So basically going to heat and pull the same width of film, about 4 or 5 inches, or about 10, 12 centimeters, and he spreads the material out. And once he gets it spread, notice he just kind of tacks it deep underneath the table, but doesn't squeegee. Can't emphasize that enough right now, and you'll see why in a second. So again, heats the area right there. You can see some wrinkles building up. So what he does is he shifts that tension out. So again, spreads the material out as wide as he can. Right, comes basically kind of spreads it out to the right, comes back to the left, heats it down, very straightforward. Again, same thing. Gives it a kiss of heat, spreads it out. So basically you're going to start at one point, and obviously it's just round. Doesn't matter where you start, just as long as you get the nice same workflow. Again, give it a kiss of heat and then stretching. So he is stretching the film a bit right now. So if he cut it right now, there might be a chance of failure. But again, as I said earlier, he didn't squeegee. So what you want to do right now is give it a kiss of heat. So by adding heat right now, and because he hasn't squeegeed, notice that it shrinks back just a little bit on the edge. And that can make the difference between it holding for long term and not. So by adding heat right now, it definitely shrinks back just to the point where he needs it to. Then he comes back and squeegees. Very, very important to get that right. And he's using the hard side of the squeegee right now just to really slice it around that corner as well. Don't want to let the material float on the corner, otherwise it might lift up as well. So just the hard side of the squeegee, and then he just Pac-Mans it down, or Miss Pac-Man or Junior Pac-Man or whatever Pac-Man you're into. So now here he's cutting it out right at the edge of the lip at the bottom, but generally that's how far you want to take the film. If there's no set lip under there, notice it goes from the the wood part of the table to that black part. So that's where he's cutting right along that line right now. His thumb kind of acts as a guide at the top right now, so that makes it nice and uniform. So a good tip for that is let your thumb be the guide. So once he makes that good solid cut around, just carefully removes the excess film nice and slow, because again, it's super thick. Your blade might not go through, so you don't want to pull too quick because it might tear. Always double check for tension. If there's no tension, good to go. Otherwise, just add a little bit of heat and then you're done. Definitely don't want to post heat, but if you get this right process, it'll really hold well for the long term. So again, don't stretch it too much, work in increments, and then you get a solid wraparound finish like this, and you get a perfect table that goes from boring standard to one that's super colorful and holds up really well. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Justin Pate.